start. Good. I'm delighted to welcome Eid Ali Ahmed to present this session tonight on the role of diasporas in development, with a focus on Somaliland and the fantastic work that the Somaliland community here in Cardiff has been contributing. My name's Alison Brown. I'm from the School of Planning and Geography, and I run a program that you guys all know about on international planning and development. And I see we have many members here also from the Somaliland community. So welcome to the department. We're going to run this session in a kind of slightly unusual format. So we're going to start with a short video. Eid will then introduce. We're going to have a short break at 6:30 for those of you that wish to say prayers, and please use the next room. And then we'll resume until about 7 o'clock, and then have questions afterwards. But first of all, there is a very long track record that Eid Ali Ahmed brings to this role. I first knew him as founder and deputy of the Welsh Refugee Centre in Cardiff, but he's actually a banker by training, trained in the States with qualifications in the UK. He left Somaliland in 1987 as a refugee, and since then has been very active in development. So he's also development coordinator of the Somaliland societies in Europe, an advisor to the Somali Progressive Association. He's also a freelance management consultant and development advisor, a chartered fellow of the Institute of Personnel and Development, an associate lecturer at Cardiff University, and an advisor to the Central Bank of Somaliland. So please welcome him. And
thank you. Thank you, Alison. I think we will start the session with a video, and that video is going to encompass, the history and what we're talking about, today. It will show, when the country was destroyed by the civil war. It will show that thousands of people, of Somaliland people, are refugees in Ethiopia, without shelter, without water, without anything. And this is what, the Somali community in Cardiff used to help, raise funding and to help those refugees at that time. There are many of them who were in that camps, who are here in Cardiff today, and maybe some of them with us here. You will see those images, in the desert. Then you will see when the country was liberated and rebuilding, Somaliland from scratch. You will see in that video, the whole country, buildings, everything was destroyed by the same government, by the Somali government. And what was unique was that, the aeroplane, of Somaliland, the aeroplanes were flying from Hargeisa and Bur'o and bombarding, the people and the cities. Then you will see how democracy was built up in that context later. And it's amazing how people achieved, that reconciliation. You will see that video. It's about 15 minutes, but it's telling everything. After that, I will talk about, about the development.
Somaliland, dhallinyarada waa ay dhammaantood siday u dhisteen dhulkoodii nabada u dhilbeen u dhilbeen u dhilbeen allow dhowr ودرارتي للتاجي قد يبيع عالمكيني دلانكينو نبض كسادي ودرارتي للتاجي قد يبيع عالمكيني دلانكينو نبض كسادي وما هدافها وانا قدسها وحيد عيابا لكي سعيها وطني قدبتها العلو وما هدافها وانا قدسها وحيد عيابا لكي سعيها وطني قدبتها العلو العلو Somaliland العلو بدي وانا قيد قلبي سيدي فرحان تودمين دي قضية غير كود ودافين ودافين الله ودور Somaliland بدي وانا قيد قلبي سيدي فرحان تودمين دي قضية غير كود ودافين ودافين الله ودور ودرارتي للتاجي قد يبيع عالمكيني بلانكينو نبض كسادي ودرارتي للتاجي قد يبيع عالمكيني بلانكينو نبض كسادي وما هدافها وانا قدسها وحيد عيابا لكي سعيها وطني قدبتها العلور وما هدافها وانا قدسها وحيد عيابا لكي سعيها وطني قدبتها العلور العلور Somaliland العلور
Thank you. I think maybe part of it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's just a building there, But if you reflect and see, how the country was destroyed and what has been built up, I think it's a good video. This was shown in Somaliland, in June 30, which I did a symposium there. And I'm sorry, the captions were not there because most of the audience were Somalis and they understood this. But, I make an excuse of that, but I think it makes sense for you. The way I will speak is, just reflecting, that history and where the situation is now. And to start with, Somaliland is not Somalia, but a separate country historically, politically, and economically, though not recognized by the international community yet. There is no Al-Shabaab insurgents, other terrorists, and pirates in Somaliland, as all those belong to Somalia, not Somaliland. If you do not know that, do not worry, as you are not alone. Because many, many people, they mix Somalia with Somaliland. And that bad image of in the south, in Somalia, reflects on Somaliland. But they are completely two different countries. Somaliland was a British colony and received its independence in June 26, 1960. But it gave up its freedom after 4 days, as reported by the Daily Herald newspaper of London on 29 June 1960, saying the rejected freedom 3 days ago, it gained, that's Somaliland, it gained its independence. On Friday, that's after 3 days, it gives it up again, joining with Somalia, which will get its independence from Italy in 1st July. What's amazing was Somaliland got the independence before the South, before Somalia. But Somaliland decided, they were so nationalistic, our elders and our people at that time, and they wanted to join together 5 Somalis, French Somaliland, Ethiopian Somaliland, Kenyan Somaliland. And they were so nationalistic and naive, and they just gave up their freedom, to join with Somalia. But the underdevelopment of Somaliland and Somalia, Somalilanders became second-class citizens in their own country. After a terrible civil war, Somalilanders regained their lost freedom on 18 May 1991, after 31 years. No need here to talk about, the atrocities and genocide inflicted against Somaliland people by military dictatorship. In fact, that's documented a lot in different places. But, what happened there was over 60,000 people were killed, innocent people. And this was reported by the Amnesty International and other human rights groups. And in fact, in the 80s, we used to campaign against that. And I can say, Wales took a very, very proactive role in unmasking, that atrocity. And in fact, the BBC, they did, and the HTV, they did documentaries, in the 90s about these atrocities. Therefore, Wales, every Somalilander, wherever he is, he knows about Cardiff and Wales because of the, the role they played at that time, because of the community here. And also the journalists, politicians, academicians, they all helped us at that time. Somaliland diaspora, we'll talk about now. Somaliland diaspora in Cardiff and other parts of UK came to this country at the end of the 19th century, as Somaliland was a British colony and part and parcel of the British Empire. In fact, that's where we born, under that, colonial system. For example, many of us, we did our education under the colonial system. The GCE from London, we used to sit for that. And without knowing our history and our geography, we used to know about UK geography and history. I passed my GCE, geography and history, without knowing, without seeing Wales and UK. But that's it, that's the colonial system. Between 1980s and 1990s, new influx arrived because of the civil war back home. In fact, in the 1980s and 1990s, there were a lot of influx because of the refugees that we have seen here. And the people who were here, seamen and used to been here for more than a century, ago who came, the Somalis, as I said earlier, they made application for family reunion. Also, other refugees, they came. And that's why the Somali community in number became, a lot. But in the beginning, and before, it was only seamen here, and there wasn't any Somali woman here at that time, very few of them. But now there are, families here and in the community. Somaliland Diaspora founded the Somali National Movement. This is the liberation movement. It was founded in 1981 in London, in fact, because most of the liberation and, advocacy for, about unmasking, the problems happening back home was led by the diaspora. The country was, as I said earlier, was liberated in 1991. Since, Somaliland has built a modern state with 2 legislative houses, executive body headed by an elected president, and an independent judiciary system. In the year 2000, Somaliland Constitution and withdrawal from the failed union with Somalia in 1960 were endorsed by the Somaliland people in a peaceful referendum. And in 2002, Somaliland held a nationwide local council election, with first democratic presidential election held in 2003, which was followed by a peaceful parliamentary election in 2005. This unique and shining track record of peaceful expression of people's voice through the ballot box continued with the latest presidential election held on 26 June 2010 with a smooth transfer of power. Somaliland is one of the countries that its diaspora play a vital role for the development of the country. Somaliland relatively receives high per capita income from Somaliland diaspora. These funds provide crucial day-to-day resources for the survival and well-being of individual families as well as various sectors in the economy. Somaliland diaspora also plays an active and effective role in diaspora-led development initiatives in education, health, and private sector. Hargeisa University, which we have seen there, Hamoud University, Gols University, and Bur'a University, and others, were all initiated by individuals and communities in diaspora. For example, Edna Aden, who is a professional nurse and worked for WHO for many years at a senior level, built a modern teaching hospital in Hargeisa. Dr. Eid Ahmed Hassan from Toronto University built from scratch with the help of Somaliland Diaspora Gols University, which now has campuses not only in Hargeisa, the capital city, but Berbera and Bur'a. Cardiff Somali community raised funds for Gols University $12,000 and Bur'a University $15,000. Also, the community raised $25,000 for developing a road, which we call, it's in the coastal area, and we call the White Road, Dawga'ad. And also around $10,000 for a road which also in the coast, but in the east of the country. Currently, the community is fundraising for Erigabo Road, which is between Bur'a, the second capital city, and Erigabo, another city which is in the east, which is a bit remote. And this project is a national one, led by the Somali government and initiated by His Excellency, the Somali President, Ahmed Mohamed Mahmoud Sirayo. In fact, there was a delegation from Somalian ministries who came last month, who were going all Europe to fundraise for that project. This project is under the responsibility of the Minister for Presidential Affairs, Hirsi Haji Aden Hassan, who manages the Somaliland Road Agency. I would like to quote here the Minister's appreciation of Somaliland diaspora contribution. Somaliland diasporas are viewed as important agents of economic and social development and also play a crucial role and effectively contribute to community-driven projects, including, in fact, he's talking about the roads that the Somali diaspora involved. The construction between Borama and Dilla, that's one road. Yeah. The construction of Pura Bridge is another project. The construction of Dawga'ad, the white road I talked about. The construction of the upcoming road, that's the one I said is at a national level and initiated by the president. The minister highly commends the role of Somaliland diaspora to economic growth, poverty reduction, and the promotion of trade. There is another interesting, foundation for education, which I am involved in fact. And this we call Darlington Ga'ma Dere. Ga'ma Dere means the man with the long, hands. He was our teacher. He was an English gentleman, and he was teaching Somalilanders for 25 years. Our president was one of his students. I was his student as well. And in his memory, we established this foundation with his family, Darlington Foundation. I am the treasurer of that foundation. It's for education. And the key objective is to develop the Somali education, support disadvantaged students to study at Somaliland University, and currently supporting 20 students. It is worth to mention that Nasra was the first student of all secondary school leavers in 2011. However, her family couldn't afford to pay the university fees, but the foundation sponsored her, and she is going to graduate next year. She was the first student of Somali school leavers in the year 2011. Very brilliant, young girl, but she couldn't afford to pay $500 for the fees of the university, and we sponsored her. That's a big achievement, which I really admire. Also, the foundation's sister organization, Darlington Scholarship at Cambridge University, gives scholarships to Somaliland graduates to study postgraduate studies at Cambridge University. And the first scholar is completing his PhD on Somali education policy next year. That's also a success one. As a Cambridge University is so expensive, every year one scholar receives a scholarship, but further fundraising strategy needed to increase the numbers of scholars. Why we established that fund at University of Cambridge is because Darlington was a graduate from Cambridge University, and the family insisted, to establish that scholarship at Cambridge University. There are, Cardiff initiatives, which some of my colleagues who are here are involved. The first one we call Wales Somaliland Link. And this initiative is sponsored by the Somali Progressive Association. Abdulkarim Adan is here, he's the director. And it involves organizing workshops in Somaliland for nursing and midwives, school linking UK, Somaliland, MPs, and AMs. The reason is we are also, the diaspora is involved with politics because we have to influence, the politicians so that they can give more aid or even in the future recognize Somaliland. Therefore, we always lobby in that, and we are very active in that. Assisted Somali diaspora to do volunteering. Also, they arranged that as well, some of the diaspora to go to Somalia and do some volunteering. Awareness raised on issues of Millennium Development Goals, and that's, some, workshops that has been done in Somaliland that the link, Wales Somali link involved. Supported, established also school links with Wales schools and Somaliland schools. Provided advocacy for a range of organizations. The other initiative is Hone Health Concern. And this one is another initiative founded by the Somali, Somalilanders here. And I think the person who's involved in this, he's also has MSc in health, and also Abdurrahman, who is here, also is involved. He's also a health practitioner. And what they do is back home, they train, public health specialists, doctors, nurses. And they do training. They do public lectures in Hargeisa University. Also, they do those seminars and lectures in Bur'o, Berbera hospitals. And what they are involved is to raise, the capacity of the professionals in Somaliland so that they share their skills, what they gained here with those who are in Somaliland. Another initiative is also Somali Mental Health Project. And I think there are several, people who are here who are involved and initiated, this important project. Because mental health, as you can understand, the displacement and the war and all these, causes a lot of distress. And many people are suffering from that in Somaliland. And what they established so far is feeding center in Hargeisa Hospital. And that, because it folded apart, and then they take over, and they funded that, for money they raised it, and that feeding center is working. Also, in the pipeline is that they are going to establish in the 6 regions, in each region, a unit of emergency for mental health. And that's very ambitious, project. And there's a lot of need of it, And the people who are involved, they are all here, With that, group, also Hayat Trust, also they work together. And Hayat also is an initiative led by Somali women here, Somaliland, and they are women-led organization, and they work with this health project. Also, they do other awareness session areas. The other topic I'd like to talk about is, remittance, which is in the heart of every Somalilander and also in diaspora. Almost every Somalilander in diaspora supports financially through many remittances to relatives back home in Somaliland. All remittances targeted at the individual households are sent to enable them to cover basic living needs. Somaliland remittance companies play a significant role in improving the living standards of thousands of Somaliland households. In Cardiff, there are 2 remittance companies who service the members of the community. Besides remittance for relatives in terms of subsistence, Somaliland diaspora do remittance also for buying or building properties, which some are used for business, such as hotels, grocery stores, petrol stations, farms, and light industry. I think you have seen, those big buildings. Most of them, they are built, by diaspora. Mansour Hotel is a diaspora, gentleman who built it. The ambassador, the same. It's not only in the city of Hargeisa, but also in Bur'o as well. And Plaza Hotel in Bur'o is owned by, a member of diaspora who is from Sheffield, Ahmed Haj Yusuf, a very, very nice man. Therefore, we invest, not only supporting our families or our relatives, but building the country and the economy. The total annual remittance by Somaliland diaspora is estimated between $800,000 and $1 billion a year. Very, very significant amount of money. Remittance into Somaliland is an ideal tool for socio-economic development as a key element of poverty alleviation, both at micro and macro level. Money naturally reaches those who need it most, and the funds are utilized in a fashion that results in the greatest benefit and betterment for each individual recipient household. Diaspora funds to Somaliland are the largest source of foreign currency. It is estimated that 80% of foreign exchange earnings are generated by remittance. 2/3 of the urban population relies on remittance. And according to the World Bank, International Finance Corporation, 80% of startup capital for businesses is funded from remittance. Staying 9 months in 2003, that's myself, in Somaliland, and conducted a research on the role of entrepreneurs in Somaliland economic development of Somaliland and job creation, I believe the World Bank figure is highly inflated. Yeah, 80%, they said, of the startup capital is from the diaspora. But I've been there 9 months. I did a research. Some of the pictures you have seen is created by young entrepreneurs, who some of them, they went up to elementary. Somalilanders are highly entrepreneurs, people. I think you have seen, the women, what they're selling and all this. This is our natural way. This is the way we survive, in fact. Therefore, I think this figure is very, very high and inflated. Because I know, I did the research, and I interviewed many, many entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, who have never been out of the country, who started, from scratch, and now they are millionaires. As said earlier, remittances have been used to build new and repair existing infrastructure, to establish and maintain hospitals, and to allow thousands of children to attend primary school. Remittance follows to Somaliland strengthens livelihood, hundreds of thousands of families, and contribute to the development of the private sector in the country. 2 years ago, a Somalilander from neighboring country, Djibouti, because Somalilanders were travelers, they are everywhere, built a 15 million modern soft drinks plant in partnership with the Coca-Cola multinational company, $15 million, And Somaliland Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mohammed Bihi Yunus' statement on diaspora contribution reads, quote, Somaliland as an unrecognized state draws heavily upon the diaspora population to represent and further the country's interests abroad in the near absence of embassies and official foreign offices. Many of our key diplomatic and economic partners are also those countries where Somalilanders have migrated and flourished. In addition to their well-documented role in sending back remittances to provide capital and support livelihood, Somalilanders diaspora communities contribute to national development by lobbying foreign governments for support and diplomatic cooperation. Creating linkage with foreign investors, investing their own money in Somaliland economy, returning to the country to share their expertise and skills, and building bridges with academic, policy, advocacy, and cultural institutions. The United Nations and the World Bank joint needs assessment in 2006 on Somaliland highlights that since the beginning of the 1990s, Somaliland has been remarkable progress on many fronts, not least in a unique reconciliation process, the creation and the implementation of functioning governance and judiciary system, and a democratization process that has led to free and fair election and multi-party legislative. This has been made possible primarily through active involvement of vibrant private sector, non-governmental organizations, civil society, and the participation of traditional leaders and large inflows of remittance. In fact, what is unique about Somaliland is, we take, what's good about the West, what we learned and all that. But also our elders and our culture we build up is a very unique. That's why it succeeded. That's why, the reconciliation happened. And this, I can say, back, to the colonial time, the British, used to, to control everything, but they used to do in an arm length, about the colony. I think I'm, just concluding now with a statement by, by the Minister of Dr. Saad Al-Shire, who is the Minister of Planning and Development. He's from diaspora as well. This is just a quotation. Somaliland may score low on a number of development indicators in comparison to others. But the 3 areas where Somaliland is mile ahead from the rest are, 1, peacemaking and consensus building ability, the basis of our stability and democracy. 2, partnership between the people, the government, and the diaspora, the cornerstone of our reconstruction and development. 3rd, resilience, our ability to survive natural economic and political challenges, unrecognized for over 23 years. And this comes to our nomadic way of resilience, and survival. Thank you very much.